I'm Damien the DM from Adventures in Aurelia, a collaborative storytelling experience told through a game of Dungeons & Dragons, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other epically geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
So sorry for the delay in episodes. I posted a blog post on the website kind of explaining why, but I did kind of at the end there say that we do have some fun things in the works for you all, and this being one of them. We're very excited to bring you another Creators on the Couch episode, and this time we are very pleased to bring back to the show for the first time in almost exactly 3 years, the phenomenal Phillip Kennedy Johnson. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
Of course, guys. Great to see you again.
Yeah, definitely. Last time we spoke was February of 2021, and we talked about Last Sons of America. We talked about Kill a Man, and you had actually just wrapped up The Last God for DC. And since then, you really haven't done a whole lot. I mean, you just kind of like been sitting around, just like twiddling your thumbs. I mean, I get they're great books and all, but you're kind of resting on your laurels a bit.
I felt like I'd done enough. Just kind of sitting on my hands now, enjoying my retirement.
There you go. You earned a break. I joke in all sincerity. You have been one of the most prolific writers, and it's not even just like you've written a lot, which you have. You have also worked on some A-list titles and done absolutely incredible work. And I'm not blowing smoke just because we're talking to you. I'm truly saying this. Some of the things that you have worked on over the past 3 years since the last time we spoke to you have been not only critically very well received, but also, just at least for me personally, incredibly impactful, emotionally resonant. And I just got to say, like, I literally have a section in my comic book drawer now that is just tabbed PKJ Comics, because at this point, if I see that you're writing something, it's like, well, got to buy it. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter who it is.
I mean, the other point to that, though, is that it's very simple because we don't have to search hard for a lot of this stuff now. I mean, the titles you've done, he said A-list. It's more like ask anyone from age, 3 to 103 some of these names, and they'll know what they are. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I've been hugely blessed with how lucky I've been, man. I've just been insanely fortunate, and I'm just trying not to waste it. I understand that at some point I'll be washed up, and I want to make every second count. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think about you guys sometimes. There's a lot of stuff that I'm writing that suits you guys' like approach to these shows.
Well, that just warms my heart.
There's a lot to mine here.
Yeah,
that we can talk about.
I was going to say, so let's jump into it.
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and it's funny because the last time we talked to you, it had just been announced that you were going to be taking over Superman and Action Comics, and now you are just the Action Comics annual was just released, and that was sort of the swan song of your run. Now Jason Aaron's going to be taking over Superman. I've read Superman on and off over the decades, but this run of yours, and again, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, and I believe I tweeted this as well. There needs to be an omni of your work, either one omni or multi-omni run. I don't care if it's something like a Jeff Johns Green Lantern thing where it's spaced out over a couple of volumes. There needs to be a hardcover compilation of the entire work you did from Future State all the way to this annual, compiling everything you've done, and I will pre-order it, and I will gladly display it on my bookshelf, because this run on Superman is just absolutely, again, it's fantastic. And so one of the things that I really wanted to get into first is a question that I have is, what was something that you wanted to do with Superman that hadn't been done before? The character's been around decades, he is like the pinnacle of superheroes. What was something that when you were kind of crafting the story and coming up with your arc, saying, you know what's something I want to leave my mark on the Superman character and mythos?
Well, thanks for all the kind words. It's super kind of you to say. Something I wanted to do with Superman. So I mean, the most recent run that Superman had been with Brian Michael Bendis, and he had spent a lot of his time humanizing Superman. Like, so there's a ton of time spent in the Daily Planet with the supporting cast, a lot of the meat and potatoes characters in Metropolis, and it was great. But I also wanted to kind of that was what had been happening most recently for the last couple of years, and I really wanted to take a different tack and kind of put the super back in him and like just see some really big spacefaring epic adventures. So that was a big thing. I wanted to see just how powerful we could make him. I wanted to see what he means, not just to humanity, but to the universe, to the multiverse. So I wanted to tell a really big story. Also, around that same time, there was kind of some serendipity because they had been building up the Jonathan Kent character, his son, who was recently grown, and they wanted to kind of build him up as a character too. So they were very open to the idea of getting Clark off world so that John could kind of spread his wings on Earth. And that worked out perfect for me. So we talked about, I mean, before I even came on Superman, I was supposed to be kind of show running this like little like house of books there that were going to be kind of considered the cosmic line, kind of the cosmic books. And because they'd seen the kind of work I was doing on Last God, where I put way too much effort into the world building. They're like, do that for us with all of our space shit. So I was kind of doing that, and there was going to be a lot of attention paid to Warworld. And then when things kind of got reshuffled and there was a lot of Superman material in that particular series. And so they were like, we should, take our Superman book. So we did Superman. I did Superman in action for a bit, and then just action going forward. But taking him up to Warworld and using a place, you asked me things that had not been done before. Anytime I'm on a book, I try to look for villains or characters or concepts or settings or whatever that have been kind of underserved and that are kind of one-dimensional. And I just kind of put a pin in that. Like, we need to blow this out and make it more legit. Whenever I see a bad guy that's bad just cause, that's just not good enough. I want to know his perspective. And that was something I really wanted to do with Mongul, the character, but also with Warworld. I don't want to see Warworld as just a big metal ball with guns sticking out of it. Like, I want to see a place where people live. What would they be like? Where did they come from? Why are they there? How do they live? How do they breathe? There's just so much. I just tried to answer every question with another question and just keep going down those rabbit holes until the world just kind of fleshed itself out.
Oh my. Okay, so I'm going to tell a little bit on how the sausage gets made here, and I'm not going to take credit. Anthony came up with the questions, but your answer is incorporating like the first 3 or 4 questions that Anthony wrote down.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm looking at these show notes. I was like, well, that one gets checked. That one gets checked. That one gets checked. I mean, literally, like the third question is why go with Mongul for the main villain of the storyline for Warworld? And for me, the thing that I really appreciated, and I'm sure this, perhaps this was intentional. I'll let you confirm it. But you were talking about the relationship between Clark and John, and John getting aged up and turning a lot older. And I know we're not going to get into the controversy because obviously that happened, well before you came on. But the thing that I really liked about the Warworld Saga and a lot of stuff that was happening with John prior to and then subsequent to that was this contrast in legacy between Mongul who is and Mongul who was, and just the succession of Mongols, and Clark and John, and this notion of Mongul always being the one to succeed his father, that somewhere there's going to be a Mongul who rises up and slays his father. And that is viewed on Warworld as a good thing, and that's conflict and so on and so forth, versus this growth of Jonathan as eventually becoming the Superman that will take over for Clark, and how John is very uneasy about that, especially in the beginning. And a lot of the Superman, he's like, there's only one Superman, and it's not me, it's you. And I really thoroughly enjoyed that contrast between the succession and legacy. And I guess, how much of that was intentional and how much of that is just me kind of interpreting what I was reading.
No, it was all intentional. I mean, I
Okay,
tried to
good.
kind of bring that home with the annual that Cy Spurrier and I did later. With the although using the mothers was mostly Cy's idea, it did fit in nicely with something I'd been wanting to do anyway. Because we almost never see female Warzoons. We see like the Mongul character,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much it. And as I say, that's just not good enough. So I want to see more of the females. Like, what are they doing up there? And I wanted to answer the questions like, where did Mongol come from as far as his mother, and where are all the other females? And we've seen a lot of father son stories over the years, but fewer mother son stories with Clark. And I thought that would be a really great way to flesh out some more Warworld building, but also tell a really poignant story between Clark and his mom. So we see Clark. We see this in a way. It's kind of like the Tom King Batman story, where you see there was an issue where you see Bane growing up and
Yeah.
Bruce growing up when they were very young, and how different they were and all that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, but in the context of a larger story. So we see Clark making a decision as a kid, using his powers in a way that any normie would, like to get a petty vengeance back at a bully. And then his mom course corrects him to help him become exceptional. Meanwhile, on Warworld, we see a future Mongol making a decision that kind of shows inclination towards compassion. And his mom corrects the crap out of him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be squashed quick.
Yeah, like you're not going to make it if you give a crap about these other kids.
It's funny you mentioned that because I literally I read everything. I own all the floppies, but I was going through between last night and today on DC Universe and rereading, kind of like speed reading just to refresh myself. And that was literally the last issue that I read 6 minutes before I jumped on the computer, was that annual, and showing the depiction of the bully who, spoiler, like shaves his head to say, I'm sorry, I called you a cue ball, Ma Kent, and I'm sorry about all that, versus Mongol and his mother. And she's like, your father, sent us to die here, kill him to make him pay for what he did to us. And it's like, she is a badass bitch. And
Right.
so is Ma Kent, but in a very, different way.
Exactly.
Very
Like,
different way.
we see both those women changing the world through their sons.
Hmm.
Yeah. So between that, but also the father stuff you're talking about, that concept of succession that you're talking about, that was all very intentional. Like, I really wanted to show, and that's the answer why I chose Mongol too, because I thought there was this potential to make Mongol a proper nemesis to Superman. Like every nemesis of a superhero should be the twisted mirror version of that character in some way, either the complete polar opposite, the diametrically opposed opposite, or the person who's almost the same person, if not, except for this little shove into the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
I give a lot of credit to that because I think mainly because of the nature of how the books have been written in the past, people think more Batman with that sort of thing and how his rogues gallery got built. And with Superman, it really became almost this brick wall of, well, he's so powerful. How do you craft through that? And you managed it. So, you know,
thank you.
that's not an easy thing to do, not just as a creator, as a writer, but then, to bring in some characters that honestly, if you hadn't, I don't know anybody really thinks about them, but the family dynamics just carry it. And it's absolutely a pleasure to see that in a Superman book, besides thinking about anyone from Lois to Jimmy, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying it's refreshing to go
No,
outside
thanks.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it was.
Osul and Otho, I think, are the best addition to the mythos that we've seen in a very long time. The lack of exposure to anything remotely resembling compassion and love, and then to be welcomed by the Superman family upon their return to Earth is just, it really, again, highlights how Clark is the best of us, and that even, I love that line, the discussion, I think it was with Midnighter, are their lives worth more than ours? Not more, but not less. And I love, because it is just cuts right to the heart of who Superman is as a character, and that he is selfless love for everyone. everyone. And he will die trying to save everybody. And I love everything that Osul and Otho represent. So just, like when you were crafting the story, at what point where you were like, I'm going to take these kids and use them to highlight this? And did you kind of anticipate that it would end up where they did, or did you just kind of go with where the story dictated?
This is where I wanted it to go, with one pretty huge exception. Initially, when I was putting together the story, one of those kids was going to get killed.
Wow.
And the other one was going to make it to Earth. And I couldn't decide which one it was going to be. And then when I got close, I was like, I think this is a mistake. Like I think this is killing one of these kids is going to be too dark for a Superman story.
Mm.
So in the end, I backed out and I was like, well, crap, now I got to bring two up there.
Hey.
It was going to be just one. But in the end, I was like, I can't, this is too much. Like this is not going to work. So in the end, I kind of balked and I ended up keeping them both. And I'm really glad that I did, because now we're seeing both of them kind of get used to life on Earth and struggle to figure us out in different ways. Like you see Otho like wrapping up T-shirts around her. She can't sleep without a chain around her arms.
Mm-hmm.
And she sleeps they sleep on the floor.
Yep.
And they, there's all these little things, these little tells. Like she's, Otho's much quicker to anger because she was always a little bit. They call them the super twins, but they're actually like Irish twins, right? Like Otho's a little bit older, and she was always the one that protected Osul. So she's just more violent and she's more screwed up. She was older, for Osul, he just kind of took the world as it was presented to him. I mean, and Otho did too, kind of, but she was always kind of the first defense against whoever tried to take from them or hurt them. She was always her that protected her brother. So I wanted to see that dynamic, And honestly, refugees is something I think about a lot. The whole story of the Warworld Saga is a story about human trafficking, really. The concept of the chain that they wear.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a human trafficking story. But the story
that's what we discussed with Last Sons of America, and then that discussion as well. So that,
and then when they get to Earth, it becomes a story about refugees.
Yeah. And the Blue Earth movement, just beautiful. Love it. Love everything that they I don't love what they stand for, but I love what you're using them to represent.
Yeah.
In the greater discussion around politics and movements and everything like that. Just again, using them as that contrast to, again, the compassion of Superman. And just to bring it back to the family again, I love that the family is just the through line running through all of the stories, whether it's the Warworld and then even the stuff later on with, Metallo and the whole thing with family. But I love the emphasis on the family unit. It's not just Superman. It's, you got Superman, you got Connor, you got John, you got Kong Keenan and the whole defection and how that plays out. I did not see that coming, honestly. I mean, not that I knew a lot about Kong, but, the very little that I did, but just how he had to defect to protect, everybody there. And he had to make that choice. Do I sell out these, my new super family or whatever? It was so, the morality and the conflicts here are so human for these obviously very superpowered characters. It was really fantastic to read. And again, I really appreciated, all of that. So one of the last things I want to touch on with Superman is how hard was it to say, I want to write about Clark, but I also want to incorporate the House of L and the rest of the super family?
It was tricky, but I knew I wanted to differentiate between the Action Comics book and the Superman book. And one of the decisions that we talked about was making it almost like a love letter to the old 100-page giants, where you get a big story focusing on Superman, but you'd also get another one with Supergirl teaming up with Robin or something, or Superboy and Supergirl, or Superboy and Crypto, or whatever. You could get the Superman family book. That was always kind of cool. I like those. And so we kind of decided to make it not an anthology, because I mean, these are all series that continue month to month, but yeah, like having the backup stories and making sure that the whole cast makes it into the main book.
Yeah, I really liked the backup stories, because you had okay, we're going to get a little insight into Bibbo, and then you had Martian Manhunter with the backup, and then I also really liked the one with Supergirl and Power Girl. I really liked that one, like the battle inside the mind.
Yep.
some of them I liked more than others, but I thought it was really cool. It was like, okay, and then every once in a while, especially during Warworld, there was the Byla, I think, was the storyteller, and so you just kind of took that opportunity to, again, as you are well known for, the world building and the mythos and just that further establishment. Gosh, like I said, I mean, we could, continue to talk for another hour just on Superman. And again, I think I tweeted this at one point, and I'll just kind of end on saying this. Thank you and damn you for making me cry as many times as you did with the Clark-Jon stuff. Again, from the very beginning, before even Warworld started, it was that whole, I think of you as my little barn swallow, and your heartbeat is my favorite sound, and all this and that. Like, because when you started, my son was like just turning 2, and he's going to turn 5 now in April. And so,
congrats! That's awesome.
Thank you. And I have a daughter. She's 18 months. She's going to be 2 in June. So that's kind of been another addition to the family. But
that's amazing.
Just all of that stuff. Like, that's why I said it was so emotionally resonant with me, because I was like, as a father, and I know this is kind of where you were writing it from as well as a dad. Just like this love letter to your kid, and just you can never express in enough words how much you love them and how much they mean to you. And just all those things, I would read the book and I would just be sitting there sobbing like, God damn it, Phil, you're making me cry again.
Did it? Yeah, actually, my son's sitting right here with me right now. Check it out.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Yeah, he's waiting on me to get done. He's
Understood.
I was about to get him ready for bed, and I totally forgot about this.
No, that's quite all right, because
completely failed.
I'll admit, my daughter, I mean, she's older. My daughter, she just turned 12. And so she was getting ready, and she was going to sit down on the couch with me to watch TV. And I said, well, I'm going downstairs. She's like, oh, okay. Like, she knew that when I go downstairs in the basement, this is what I'm doing. So,
yeah,
my
son is almost 5. So he was exhausted. Like, my wife did bedtime with him tonight, and he passed out like 90 seconds after his head hit the pillow. Like, both my kids were asleep by 7:15. So
wow, nice.
Yeah, see,
very different.
I was gonna say, if you want to use it just as like a jump, because I know we're not gonna get to everything, it's obvious. But I know the next thing that you have listed, because at least Superman, you get the wholesome side of things, for the most part, because that's what the character is about. So there's some other books.
Do other books, yeah.
Yeah. Anthony, do you think we should jump into Alien? Or
well, let's do Alien then, because we're not going to have time to get into everything. But we've got Superman, this wonderful, lovely father-son story.
Let's schedule a part 2 as well.
Yeah.
So
we'll definitely get a part 2 so we can finish the rest of this. But Alien was another instance of a father doing anything for his son, at least in that first arc, but under incredibly different circumstances. And I really appreciated how, and we discussed this a little bit last time we spoke. You would have been announced on Superman and Alien, and those 2 books could not be further apart in terms of tone and subject matter. And you pulled that off as well with aplomb, and just absolutely fantastic. So was it intentional that you were writing more father-son stuff and just putting it in space with horrible creatures?
I did not set out to write 2 dad stories, like opposite dad stories at the same time. That's just kind of where my head went when I was pitching for the Alien book. I wanted to, first the concept started with the main character, Gabe, the main guy. Most Alien stories have a female protagonist, most often Ripley, but also others. And I deliberately steered away from that in this first arc, because Ripley is just, to me, like the most iconic action hero. And any character I create will be compared to Ripley, almost certainly unfavorably. How could any hero stand up to the expectations set by Ripley? So I decided to make it a guy, and instead of making it the plucky blue collar worker or the space marine, I kind of wanted to see the company man. Like, I always had all these questions about Weyland Yutani whenever I watched those films. I want to know more about the company. Like, who are they? What do they do? What do they want? And I thought it'd be really cool to show somebody who's been on the inside their whole career. And at the end of their life, or at the end of their career, I should say, well, their life too, they kind of, like, something goes horribly wrong and they have to decide what they want their legacy to be. They kind of have to choose their their living son or their other child in a way.
Mm-hmm.
This other thing that they also gave birth to that is his legacy as far as work. So then it kind of becomes this big showdown because then his son, of course, becomes the host. And now Gabe and this other thing are both trying to protect their kid, in the same body. And there was something really compelling about that. But I mean, I identify as a father probably more than any other thing. I'm unusually close with my son, aren't I? Yeah, we're just best friends. And my relationship with my own dad was not close. I always wanted to be close, and it was not that at all. And now having him, it's like, it's all worth it. We just get along so amazingly well. We spend a ton of time together, and that's the best part of my day every single day. And I take it extremely seriously. And I just think about it a lot, So, I mean, when they asked me to write Superman, people are like, "Oh, writing Superman's so hard. He's too powerful." I'm like, "Get the out of here!" Like it's writing Superman. Superman's a father now. That makes it too easy. I mean, that alone makes it too easy. But there's also all these other things you can do with it. I never found him hard to write at all.
Yeah.
But even on the Alien story, my mind went to the father-son relationship there too, as a vehicle to tell a very nihilistic, bleak story where, the worst possible scenario as a father,
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Fatherhood gone wrong.
Now, was it always the plan? Because I know, and not too much longer, but was it always the plan to have like 3 separate arcs across the 2 volumes? Because I know that at the very least, the first arc, kind of ends and finishes with Gabe, and then it transitions into the second one with the religious colony, et cetera, and then volume 2 is its own separate thing. So was there any? Was it always intended like that, or was it just we're just going to tell one story and see what we can do with the next one? Or
nah, the numbering is a Marvel thing. That's just kind of what they do. They throw a lot of number ones at stuff for the. They start back to number 1 pretty often because it gives you a sales boost. It's just a way for readers to jump on. I mean, it's a double-edged sword though, right? Because it's also a jumping off point.
Yeah.
So I have mixed feelings about it. But, they've been doing this a long time, and that's how they like to do it. DC does things a little differently. But, yeah, Marvel likes to reboot numberings kind of often. And that didn't have anything to do with the story. Like, in my mind, the first, second, and third arcs that I wrote, well, not just my mind, but in reality, like, they're all part of the same canon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I just, like I said, the transitions, are there. I just didn't know, to what extent, that was the plan or whatever. Frankly, my personal favorite of the 3 arcs is the middle one about the colony and everything.
Yeah.
And just because I think, and they're all fantastic arcs. I'm not taking anything off of any of them, but I like the interplay of the whole, we're kind of chosen and, this is supposed to happen. It's God's will and everything like that. And then this whole comeuppance of, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And this isn't what we kind of wanted, and et cetera, et cetera. So I just, that, like I said, was my personal favorite. I didn't know if you had a preference for any one of the arcs or.
I'm very proud of all of them. I do kind of have a soft spot for that first one, I guess.
Same.
As far as the story, like it just seems maybe the tightest as far as the themes and thematically is probably the tightest of the 3. And it's the one that I felt like I had to tell the most, like it's the one that was just crawling out of me to be told. I just had to tell it.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Bursting forth.
The second one was really cool for a couple of different reasons. It was cool because we got to see an alien moon, and we got to see a new version of like a very different version of a xenomorph because of that. First one, we introduced the alpha, and that was cool. But I was, I'm always trying to be mindful of, not jumping the shark. Like I wanted it to feel like the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the Dark Horse ones kind of went wrong, in my opinion. Like they were super creative, but after a while, they just strayed really far from the movie canon, and it felt like a kind of like an alternate reality kind of thing where it didn't feel like the same world as the one that we see in the films. And I wanted these, especially with the synergy between Marvel and Fox and all that, I really wanted it to feel, like the films.
Okay. And then last question, how much input did you have into the xenomorph designs? Was that like, did you have notes and then the artist took it and expanded, or was it just the artist said, I think this would look really badass and cool, and you said, okay, Go.
I'm pretty much dictated all the designs in this case. Like every working relationship between artists and writers is different. But for that particular collaboration, I gave a lot of photograph or art graph and descriptions and things I wanted. And sometimes things kind of came back. I got some notes from Fox on stuff sometimes.
Wow.
Let's see, what was an example of that? There was a thing in the first issue where we see a flashback and there are a bunch of Marines that have been face hugged and they're all in a nest together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all just like waiting to be killed or to hatch or whatever. And this one guy's hanging from the ceiling and he's got a face hugger on his face, another one on his butt, another one on his crotch.
Huh.
And the Fox people were horrified. They're like, no, it's called a face hugger. That's all they can do. Like, what if you're on what if you're in a place, the thing, they need to be able to impregnate anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
orifice is an orifice. Got it.
Yeah, not everything, exactly. Any port in a storm, not everything has a face. So I actually used notes from the bonus material on Alien Covenant. David talks about when he's making stuff on that planet, he talks about these things that he discovers there, and one thing kind of crawls up his leg. One thing that he uses to kind of breed what would eventually become the xenomorph. There's a thing that does that does look for orifices. And in the journal, he talks about it running up his leg and being surprised when there's nothing there. And that kind of gives David the second to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually they let me have that one. But like the other things, like the tuber morphs, as we called them in that second arc, where the things that the rednecks called tubers, they become, they get face hugged and they become those other things. And in the script are called tuber morphs. Those are pretty awful. And that was also quite different from the traditional xenomorph. But it still feels gross and egg-like in a way that the movies do. And it still felt like it belonged. Like there was still like this gross sexual element to it that was inherent to Giger's designs.
Well, Giger himself said, the whole point of whatever it was, number 2, that was the thing that eventually became the xenomorphs. And he said, you're not sure whether it wants to kill you or you. And, that was so very much in that vein. So I absolutely agree. And I thought, the artist and Sal LaRocca and everybody that kind of worked on that did an absolutely fantastic job in that, because it was just, it really exuded that creepy quality. And I would read and go,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, exactly. You should be squirming watching that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was the key to that arc for sure.
Yeah, mission accomplished. I mean, look, I'm all for representation, like symbolism and all that, but I was just like, this is a bit much. Okay, I got the point.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot. So I'm looking at the clock and, we're cognizant of the time. So we're going to wrap things up now. And, we'll, I guess once we stop recording, whatever, we can certainly discuss scheduling a return visit, and hopefully, we can continue this
totally.
conversation, because like I said, we still want to talk James Bond. We want to talk John Stewart and then the Hulk. So there's a lot to unpack there. So
there's stuff in all those books I'd love to talk to you guys particularly about.
Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you, Philip. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Go, take care of your son. Obviously, from two dads here, we absolutely get it, and we respect and appreciate it. And, I will touch base with you soon, and we'll schedule the return visit.
Awesome. It's great to see you again. I'm looking forward to the next one.
So apologies to everybody. Philip unfortunately had some family stuff come up that had to cut the interview short. You did hear towards the end, we are going to schedule a part 2. So hopefully that's going to be coming very soon. But still, it was absolutely fantastic to get the time that we did with him. And I was just saying to Doc in between, like, I could have talked for another 45 minutes just on the Superman stuff, because there's so much there, not just the fact that he wrote it for 3 years, but he wrote it so well. And
yeah. Dude brings in characters that I thought I only give any thought about. So
you are not the only Hank Henshaw fan in the world. I know there are not many of you, but you're not the only one. Yeah, we didn't even get to Hank Henshaw and everything that in the Metallo storyline, which followed Warworld. I mean, that's like the big one. Obviously, that is like the centerpiece of his story and his run. But, there's a fantastic story there with Metallo too, and what it means to sacrifice everything for your family. Because again, that through line of family and giving things and the selflessness. And we care about Metallo. Who thought we would ever give a shit about John Corbin? In terms of the ranking of Superman villains, no one's putting Metallo in the A tier. He barely scrapes the B, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I'm saying this not somebody who's steeped in decades of Superman lore. I appreciate the character, and I know of many of his rogues, but Metallo is also one of those, he's there. He's got kryptonite and he's a robot. Cool. Superman's going to kick his ass. Next story. But over the course of these issues, and that is, again, we say this all the time, there are no bad characters, and it's not even about bad writers, but a good writer can take a character that you never cared about and make you love them and make you appreciate them.
I mean, that pretty much is the whole point of writing as a whole. Forget the comics part of it, any medium, or even the way we are speaking. We all have an epic tale within us that is being lived out moment by moment. It's to our detriment that we don't treat it that way. And that is the part that we need comics like this for.
Yeah.
Just to remind us, like, I'm not saying that we're all Superman. I am saying that we all are capable of incredible things and already have done some of them and never actually take the time to acknowledge it.
Yeah. I mean, you can take it certainly to the other extreme and assume that you are the main character in everyone's story, your own and all of those around you. You see that all the time. It's real big main character energy, but it's not about that. It's about the quality of the story and the impact that you have on the lives of those around you. And that's what it comes down to. Is the best thing about Superman is not just who Clark is, it's who he is to everyone around him. And that aura of protection and safety and bringing out the best in people. Find that energy in yourself and in your life and bring that and spread that to those around you. You're not going to be perfect. Nobody is, except for Superman. But if you can bring that energy of helping those around you feel better about themselves, then you're being a Superman in your own life. So, and that's something that I'm trying to remind myself of as I kind of work my way out of another realm of depression. As I said at the very beginning, it's been a hot minute since we've done one of these episodes. I've been dealing with some stuff. I mean, it was professional, it was personal, there was some health things, and it was just like one thing after another. And, like literally every other day I would say to my wife, I was like, so this is another thing that we have to deal with now. Like, can we catch a break?
Right. And I'll admit, even though those types of events at that level hadn't happened to me, I can't claim that. I'll admit, based on previous events, this time of year is always, and at this point, I'll just say it's like freaking mixed bag, just of sorrow and joy and, new beginnings and reflection on things past, all of it coming together. I know these are all stereotypes, and yet when you're living them, they're true.
Oh, yeah. It's, joy and pain, sunshine and rain. How many times did he talk about people acting like foes, though? It seemed like every Rob Bass song he had to mention, I got friends that act like foes, because it was in that, it was in the other one. I don't know.
Well, there you go.
It was that, it was those two songs, because nobody knows more than two Rob Bass songs.
I was going to say, I'm not familiar with the whole catalog, man. I can't speak to that.
That's it. That's all he had. His entire his greatest hits could fit on a cassette single. And that's a statement that ages both of us. So upcoming episodes, we are going to get around to Speedball. And then we've also got, unfortunately, we had some difficulty in trying to schedule folks for Echo. So we've also got Deathstroke coming up and some more stuff. And then, as I said, in a couple weeks, we've got our 6-year anniversary, and we'll have some cool stuff, hopefully, that we can discuss then. And then at some point in there, we will fit in the second half of our eventually scheduled discussion with Phillip Kennedy Johnson. And we're going to be talking about his work on James Bond and Jon Stewart and his ongoing run on The Incredible Hulk. So
yeah, the side gigs, the minor stuff that he's been tasked to do. I'm sure he's been just slogging at this point. Like,
I mean, seriously,
yawn.
like if Jon Stewart, and there's no disrespect to Jon Stewart, if Jon Stewart is the lowest tier character that you have written in the past 3 years, you're on some top level shit. Like, and again, that's not a disrespect to Jon Stewart or Green Lantern, but if that's the lowest tier that you've hit, like the least known character you've written is Jon Stewart, then it's worked out pretty well for him. That's why I had to make that joke. I was like, yeah, you did the Last God and all that, and then you've done nothing for 3 years. Except the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, this is like 27 Yankees in terms of like his output here is just like, bam, bam, bam.
Just hit after hit.
And the hits just keep on coming. And the episodes will just keep on coming for us. So you can, you like how I did that segue? I had that radio background. So you can find all of our episodes on our website, capesonthecouch.com. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads at Capes on the Couch. And hopefully I will have the spoons to create more content. I did post the video about what it's like being a podcaster with ADHD and trying to come up with some really meaningful content. And all I have are memes, but it's engagement and I'm trying. We also have a Discord channel. So please feel free to go ahead and join there. We've got links in the show notes. We've got a fantastic community of people. All of our fans are fantastic, but especially the ones that engage with us in the Discord. I feel just like that's the best space where we really get the best feedback. And, special shout out to Matt, who pointed out, he said, you guys are always here for us. Remember that we're here for you too. And that, did make me cry. So I appreciate that. That is why we do what we do. My therapist asked me last week, she's like, so why do you do the podcast? And I'm like, some days I'm not always quite so sure. And then we get a message from a fan or we get a response from somebody that said an episode touched them in a certain way or resonated, whatever. And I go, that's why, because we made something beautiful and it's not always perfect and it's not always timely or scheduled appropriately, but it continues to resonate with people even after almost 6 years. And we are eternally grateful to all of you for that. So with all that being said, thank you again to Phillip. Doc, you got anything you want to
I just
add?
wanted to say that, with regards to everything that has happened within the past, I'd say month or so, it's a reminder that every day is different. I'm not saying every day is better. I'm not saying every day is worse, just that every day is different. And depending on how you approach it, you always have the opportunity to have the best day you can. And I'm not just saying that for the podcast. I'm saying every patient I've ever seen at this point from maybe for the past 5 years, I never say have a good day. I can't because I don't know. All I say is have the best day you can. And it's fascinating to hear other doctors, nurses, even patients to each other say that. And so I think this is the first time I'm saying this on this podcast. So I'll try and do that more often because I really think that's the best approach. I have no idea what your day is like, but I sincerely hope you have the best day you can.
And I will second that sentiment as well. For Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you soon.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.